3 weeks later.
Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Things have been super busy in my life, especially with all the renovations I've been doing. You can't really tell from this camera angle, but I promise you things are looking pretty great here. Granted, it's still a bit of a work in progress, but the Bottomless Pit Library is officially under construction. So yeah, lots of changes in my life in many aspects, the hair being one of them, I guess. Not what I expected initially, but very interesting. Thank you, Ruby. As always, it's a hit. Anyways, as usual, I digress. I know, I am criminally late with my latest video for the Bottomless Pit, but here we are today to talk about a film that has very humble origins. As a young boy growing up, I never really got into the Judy Blume novels, though I was aware of their existence. They were quite popular indeed. I imagine that all the ladies will be much more familiar with that material. But no matter, I do think it's curious that it took nearly 50 years for this book to get an adaptation into film. Though I am not intimately familiar with the reason why Judy Blume was so hesitant for such a long time to collaborate with the Hollywood producers to adapt her work, but essentially it comes down to the intrinsic creative incentive for those studios to adapt her work. I guess it really did feel like they were just choosing a random book from her library rather than actually having an emotional and passionate connection to one of her novels that they felt they needed to adapt. Which brings us to today. After passing on many pitches for an adaptation of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, Judy Blume received a passionate email from Kelly Fremon Craig about her desire to adapt this book into a film. That passionate email was exactly the kind of calling card and creative spark that Judy Blume was waiting for all those years. And it only helps that Craig wrote and directed a film called The Edge of 17, which apparently Judy Blume absolutely adored. I'll be honest with you guys, this is the first I hear of it, but I am interested because of this film and also because of Woody Harrelson who appears in it. And as another side note, this does happen to be her directorial debut, though she does have quite a few screenwriting credits under the belt by this point in time. Truly, Kelly Fremon Craig's adaptation of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is exactly the kind of adaptation that Judy Blume and all her fans have been waiting for and dearly deserve to get. On one hand, the film is laugh out loud funny, and on the other, it is brutally honest. The film explores the very awkward and intimate nature of an 11-year-old girl going through many kind of changes in her life. But one of the main themes, of course, deals with puberty, that awkward and bumpy transition period we all go through in some shape or form in our lives. And indeed, they were awkward and intimate. There were moments at times where I was like, you know what, maybe I should be looking away from the screen. Of course, you have nothing to worry about. There are no untoward or malicious intentions here. I promise you the film has its heart in the right place. But nonetheless, the film is inherently awkward because these are very intimate and indeed sexual moments where a young child is discovering, well, like their growth in this world. Indeed, I found the film to be quite brave to tackle the topics of this film as openly as it does. And speaking of heart and passion, all of that weighs squarely on the shoulders of a splendid cast who give all-round knockout performances. Young Abby Ryder-Fortson, who plays Margaret, shows remarkable emotional depth and range for her age. That first scene where we witness her internal monologue to God, reaching out for a helping hand in this incredibly chaotic time of her life, was such a pure and genuine moment to capture on film. I absolutely adored it. And then I dare say we have the fan favorite in the film, which will be the grandmother, who is played by a dynamite Kathy Bates. My god, is she a hoot in this film. An absolute riot. Look no further than the intro scene in this film where the parents try to hide the fact that they are moving away from New York City, and rather than waiting for the parents to subtly break the ice, well, she just comes in and just straight out says it, which instantly puts Margaret into a sense of panic, thinking, oh my god, like all my friends, my school, my life, it's all gone and destroyed. And keep in mind that this is just the very opening scene of the movie with her. Though she admittedly has a very limited screen time, she has such an explosive and boisterous personality that she just consumes your attention on the screen.
I read that when you don't have any loved ones around, your life expectancy drops drastically, but you know, I've had a good run.
Yeah, Kathy Bates really knocked out of the park with this one, and I do believe that we may be looking at an early contender for at least a nomination for an Oscar for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Next, we have the mother, who is played by radiant Rachel McAdams. She has countless highlights in this film, but arguably the one that resonated the most in my mind is when she honestly tells Margaret about why she never met her other grandparents. It is a devastating scene, and it so happens to be a bit of a masterclass in the art of subtle acting. Rachel McAdams absolutely nails all the subtleties that this scene needed. It was a wonderful performance and yet another potential candidate for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Regardless if she gets any award recognition or not, what I do find noteworthy is that, well, in the film, this mother character is much more fleshed out than she is in the book. Obviously, I haven't read the book myself, but I've heard from quite a few different people, and most notably, Judy Blume herself in an interview with the director. Moving forward, next we have the father, who is played by none other than Benny Safdie. Yeah, that guy who directed those crazy rated R films such as Uncut Gems. I still have to watch The Good Guy. Good guy? Good time. He probably has one of the smallest roles in the film, and I dare say that he has very little impact on the plot itself. That being said, I do appreciate the chemistry that the whole family has together. Though there are some dysfunctional elements in the family, as in any relationship or family if we're being honest, even so, I do find him to be quite inspiring. If ever I am a parent, I hope to be half as genuine and open as they are. Yeah, I do feel that they're quite the role models in this film. Anyway, it's always nice to see Ben Safdie acting, even if they are in relatively minor roles. Then of course there's this wide array of characters and friends that we meet in school or in the neighborhood that they move to. The Secret Girls Club itself is a riot.
We must increase our bond!
I'm going to leave it at that. Though if there is one standout character, it would have to be Ellie Graham as young Nancy Wheeler. And my god, is she wild. She basically shamelessly forces Margaret into her life without even asking if she wanted to, and takes her on this crazy roller coaster ride of sassiness and girly adventures. Yeah, there are some moments with this character where my eyes were just wide open in shock and awe. And I promise you, I am not the only one who felt this way. The rest of the crowd in the cinema were just as flabbergasted as I was. Once again, there's some moments in this film that are so awkward and intimate that I felt like I should look the other way. The cringe and awkwardness is off the charts in some of these scenes. And to build on this character, I think this is another area where the film absolutely outshines itself. Nancy admittedly does give off a mean girl vibe, but as we progress through the film, we witness her in some genuinely vulnerable moments. It's a nuanced take that shows she's just as confused about her insecurities as any one of us really, and it gives her some much needed depth in character. Yeah, the film tackles a lot of complex topics at the same time. The trauma of moving, leaving your old life behind, family drama, and then a backbreaking philosophical soul-searching exploration centered around religion. It is a fascinating perspective to witness a young girl stuck between two opposing worldviews, in this case Christianity and Judaism, where she explores both sides and tries to carve her own path forward in her own life, all the while discovering more about herself, her own body, and around her environment through this awkward and bumpy transition in life. These are frankly timeless questions that I feel are just as relevant as ever, regardless of time period, age, or gender. So as you can tell, I'm just gushing with positivity over this film. I do think it's as great as I make it sound. And I do find it hard to find much to complain about this film. Though I do wish we got more exposed to the teacher that Margaret meets in school, because I think he has some of the most interesting and philosophical moments in the film. But he's just underutilized, I find. I would have loved to have more of his perspective and wisdom. And I guess another complaint, which is a bit of a nitpicking detail, but I gotta bring it up nonetheless. The 70s aesthetics, for the most part, is just absolutely nailed. But when it comes to Rachel McAdams, so there are all these women who are in their 70s garb, 70s hairstyle, they look the part. But then when I look at Rachel McAdams, I mean, she looks great and all, don't get me wrong, but she looks like Rachel McAdams in 2023, not someone who belongs in the 1970s. It is ever so slightly immersion breaking. Though on that note, speaking of the aesthetics and the 70s vibes, in terms of the environment and set designs, it is immaculate. They absolutely knocked it out the park. There's so many little details to find in their homes, especially with the art pieces and decor. It's a feast for the eyes in that sense. Bottom line, it's generally refreshing to have a film with such a comparatively mundane topic in this sea of massive action Hollywood films. Of course, not hating on those films. For those who've been watching this channel know that I do enjoy those kind of films too. But honestly, if we were to throw this film in the gladiator ring with most other films this year, or even previous years for that matter, it would come out as a champion of emotional depth, exploration, and just wisdom and philosophy. There's so much emotional growth, family values, and these intimate topics that are explored in ways that few other films do. It is a fiercely brave, profound, and revelatory film-going experience that I feel compelled to applaud. I'm gonna give Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret a rock solid 9 out of 10. I know it might feel to you guys like I'm giving out 9s and 8s like Kansas on Halloween, but I promise you I am not reviewing every single film I see in my life. I just don't have the time for that. But this film, I gotta shout it out. And this is likely going to be another film that's gonna go right underneath most people's radars. I think on a $30 million budget, it's done what, like over 12 million at the box office right now? Yeah, not doing that great, and frankly I'm not surprised, even if I am disappointed. So this is yet another friendly reminder to shout out that you shouldn't sleep on this film. I think this is an early film of the year contender. And that is all for today. Things are busy on my side, but that's the way I like it. I'll do what I can to put a video out sooner than later, but we'll just have to see what the topic will be and when that will come out. And for those of you who are still here, number one, thank you. And number two, subscribe and ring that bell if you haven't already. I never say that part because it just makes me feel pretentious as hell. But I can't help but notice that my views for my videos lately have been significantly lower than they were not that long ago. That probably has to do with the YouTube algorithm that just totally kneecapping me because I've been outputting so much fewer videos comparatively. No matter, I'm still overjoyed to be making these videos. It really is an intrinsic motivation that I have here. I just love talking about films that really resonated with me, either for good or bad for that reason. And if you're there and you enjoy it too, you know what? Hey, everyone wins. But yeah, ring that bell. Alright, with all that being said, as always, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you all very soon.